Sweet. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Money Store. My name is AJ. Today, we have a really cool discussion with a good friend of mine that I've met rather recently. He's going by the name John. And yeah, John, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, for sure. And so John is interesting, and I invite him on because this person brings a particular approach to this whole LLDM situation, in that John didn't know about LLDM like his whole life, and only recently has he learned about it. And so we get this interesting like outsider's perspective of someone who's just like jumped into this whole world and hasn't had all these ideas like stuffed into their head over the course of like a decade or their whole life or something like that, like people like I have. And then of course, like yeah, we'll get into that. And so like, John, let me ask you, how did you come into this whole like world of ours where we're going through this massive like change in our community? Yeah, what can you tell us about that?
So like how I got to know about this LLDM.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, it was back in this year. I met this girl, and like I fell in love with her. So we started to talk more and then date. But like in the beginning, I thought that she was just like Christian, like she goes to the church, and like obviously I'm Christian too, so I go to the church and everything's good. But then one day she's like, "Oh, we have different faiths, so like I can't be with you." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you mean? Like I'm Christian, you're Christian, we both believe in God and Jesus. Like what's the problem?" And then she brought up the apostle, and she was telling me that like his going through like the court case right now, even though he's innocent and there's no evidence, and that there's the apostle of God, and we have to believe in him because he's the only truth. So I was like, okay, that sounds very weird. I know a lot about cults. I've studied a lot of different cults. So like I was very unfamiliar with like this LLDM. So I did my own research on Google, and I found that there are evidences, and whatever they preach is very similar to cults. So I went back to her and said, like there's actually evidence and you have to see this, and like you guys are in cult. And I shouldn't have said this, because when you're talking to cult members, you're never supposed to say you're in a cult. But I said that, and she got mad at me, obviously, and she tried to cut me off. So it was a very difficult situation that I was in, and I was like, okay, if I want to know the truth, I'm never going to say that like you're this or that if I don't know much about it. So I told her, okay, like I'm not going to say anything. I'll just learn on my own. I'll do my own research. So I talked to a lot of missionaries from that church. And I also did my own research about like the court case, the history of the church and every single thing. And now, like, I would say that I know a lot. I still keep to update with everything. When I talk to like other ex-members, they think that I'm a member or was an ex-member because I know so much. Yeah, but it got to the point where like the more I know, the more trash that I find about this church, and like it's more clear sign that it's a cult. And all I'm waiting now at the point is just waiting for my loved ones to realize the truth, then I can guide them. So I'm just preparing things for that time to come, especially after like how the case is gonna go. He's gonna be proven guilty for sure. But yeah, that's how I got to know more about LLDM. And now I'm talking to AJ and like other people who are like talking trash about LLDM.
It's justified trash. It's malas conversaciones, but it's still ultimately at the end of the day, like no, we're just speaking like truth to power, and like we just can't like be subjected to these like dogmas. Yeah, when we spoke the other day, I was so surprised at how you said that you'd only jumped into this like basically earlier, like a couple months ago, like just like literally like a season ago or something like that. And it's fascinating because you first realize what you're dealing with when it comes to your partner, and that your partner's like, yeah, we're Christian, we believe in God and Jesus and so on, but there's this added layer that we have that makes us special and then makes us apart from you, and we can't marry away from outside of the church, and like all that sort of stuff presents itself. So like outsiders always have to end up confronting like immediately the core of the core of the whole thing that makes this a cult, and it is that like the belief in Nason as the middleman between God, Jesus, and the heavens, and everyone down on earth, and then just of course all the fluff that they put around him, and then all the practices that they implement to get people to stay stuck and like adhering to this organization and so on. Yeah, thank you again. Like, thank you for coming on. You definitely know your stuff. You know a lot of it, and it's even like it's even kind of like mind-boggling that someone can jump into this so quickly and then learn all of it so fast, and dive into like the history of the church, and again, it's all really about like you just doing your own research, and you just went in with a untrained with an untrained eye, with an eye that's untrained from LLDM, and you just dove right into the cesspools of the internet that LLDM just hates to so many extents, because it just completely undermines everything that they have to say about themselves.
Mhm.
And so yeah, like, welcome. I'm so glad that you're on, and I find you're not the only. Yeah, I also want to say that you're not the only one that I know that is in a situation like this, where they have come into contact with me because they have a partner that's in the church, and they're trying to help get them out. And then you're also not alone in that. I know plenty of other people who are married and maybe have children, and they have a partner who is still stuck to the thing, who is still going, but they themselves have stopped going. And so this is uh, uh, and the same thing happens for families, just families who just haven't spoken to each other because one person like decided to stray away at a certain time. And so yeah, like just welcome to our network of social fracturing due to the fact that this magic Nason man can yell certain things from a podium, and people believe it, and people start acting on it. And so you have a personal stake in this, but you have a personal stake in this, and it's different from a lot of other people's, but still, like, thank you for being like part of this and gathering your resources and all that. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
Like right now I'm like gathering like the information. I have the whole document that I've been gathering to prove why LLDM is false, biblically and also outside of the Bible, just overall in general, with the case and history and what they have. Like everything shows that why LLDM is not a true church. And when it comes to dating a member as an outsider, it's really difficult because they bring up that like, oh, you're not supposed to be with a Gentile, right?
Mhm.
But in the Bible, the Gentile means like anyone who's not Jews, and they take it as in like if you're not member, then you're Gentile.
Mhm.
And they say that, oh, if you date someone who's not from the church, then you're going to be cursed. God's going to punish you. You can't be saved. And I even had her family telling me that I'm the evil dad who's trying to take her away from like staying strong with God. So
Mhm.
if she's with me, like devil knows what she wants. So I'm being this really good guy that she wants, but in the end, like I'm pulling her out from her church. Like that's what they say.
Mhm.
They thought that like I was a very evil person and everything. And just it was really hard for both of us because on her perspective, it's like she really loves me. Everything between
Mhm.
her and I are good, but it's the religion, and she loves me so much. But being with me, she feels like basically she's living under this fear of like dying early or being cursed, not having a child, or even if she does have a child, she like they're gonna be cursed.
Yeah.
And on my end, it's like I know the truth, and I really want her to see it. And like relationship can fall apart with many different reasons, but like
Mhm.
when it comes to religion, like yes, I understand that like respecting each other's religion is important, but when it comes to cult, it's different story. Like I really want to save this person, and after knowing so much about this cult, like you just know that having someone that you love in the cult, like it's very sad and it's emotionally draining. And it's hard because like you know the truth and you want to speak up, but if you speak up, they're gonna cut you off. Like I have this audio of Nason and other pastors saying that it doesn't matter if they're your best friend or even your family, if they like talk bad about the church or try to tell you something, then like they're basically the poison. So you're supposed to stay away from them and cut them off. And this is one of the called strategy to keep their members blinded and closed-minded, and this is what the other cult, Jehovah's Witness, and like literally what other cults use, like shunning and cutting them off and controlling the information and resources. And I brought that up to her, saying that like a lot of cults say that don't look this up and the word is evil. This is the devil trying to, deceive you. I told her that, but she thinks like, oh, it is because church trying to protect our beliefs and our faith because church knows that we're weak. And and I told her like, okay, like protecting
I've
your
heard this too.
faith, yeah, and believing is important. It's really important. I agree with you. However, you have to know what you believe is the truth. Like you can't just believe that Santa Claus is true and hold on to that. Like you have to see, like, is there actually Santa Claus? Is there any evidence? Or like, why do I believe, or why do people believe that there's Santa Claus? Just because people believe doesn't mean that there's Santa Claus. You know what I mean? So I brought that topic up, and I asked her, if you believe what you have is the truth, then why can't you look it up? Like, why can't you inform yourself? Like, if what you believe is the truth, then after you look it up, like you'll know that what you have is the truth. So I gave the example of like there's an apple, and then you have the box over it, and then you don't know what's inside, but you know there's an apple. Then just lift up the box and see with your own eyes there's an apple. Like, just do that. But she said that she doesn't do it because she believes and she trusts, and you have to trust without like seeing with your eyes. Like you just have to trust in God. And it's very sad to me because they like I can't have conversations with them. Like I know their perspective, but they never understand my perspective. Like I have so much. Whenever I try to bring up the court case, they're like, oh, don't tell me. I can look it up on my own, but I just don't want to learn about it because I believe that he's innocent, he's honorable, he's man of God. But like, okay, but like the person that you say is man of God, like he literally admit that he had something with all these people, and they said that there was no evidence. Then why is he admitting to all these charges now? He didn't
and why does he have
earlier.
like just a gigantic bail on him? And there's just so many things of just like why this, and then it just doesn't come through like to people.
And she just tells me you have to pray to God, open your heart. And that doesn't make sense to me, because if I want to open my heart, like obviously I want to know that something is true. Like you wouldn't like believe in something that there are so many signs that is not true, why it's false, and you can't just believe blindly. And she tells me, oh, curiosity kills the cat, and you looked up the court case, and that's what caused you to be like this. But it's not bad. Like even in the Bible it says to test your spirit, and even when the apostle Paul was preaching, people like examine the scriptures to see what he was saying is true. So it's not bad to see if the church or the apostle or whatever it is true or not. Like, we have to test things to know and believe in certain things. And just saying that you just have to believe, like that makes no sense to me. And I think that is information and manipulation of the LLDM, that they always twist things and they try to make things nice. And that's what other cults do too. Like I know this cult in Korea. And what they do is there's this leader, and he claims himself that he's basically Jesus Christ, and he controls all these people. There are a lot of followers, and whenever they have someone who's trying to help them see the truth, they are taught that like it's the devil in them talking to you, and if you listen to them, like you won't go to heaven, and your entire family won't go to heaven. And that there are even cult centers who help these people wake up, and they have a lot of evidences of the leader and the church, and they don't want to see that because they are taught that if you go there, you're basically gonna die. And they think of dying as a spiritually, so they even like like let's say like your parent is trying to get you out from the church, then they would like literally get out of the house, or like if you're in a car, they would literally just open the door and jump out of the car, even though like they're gonna get hurt, because they say that I rather get hurt physically than spiritually. I'd rather
Mhm.
my body die than like my spiritual life dying or soul
Yeah.
dying. So like
Uh,
that's their mentality, and LLDM is very similar to that.
mhm. Dude, there's so much I'd like to say in like response to that, because you're bringing up a number of just a number of like really important difficulties that present themselves when we try to break through to church members. So one of the first things that I wrote down was how you were discussing the word gentile, and so within the Bible it means a non-Jewish person, but LLDM gets that word and like twists it to make it where it means non a person that doesn't belong to God, a person that isn't um, admired or loved in the eyes of God in the ways that the Jews were back in the day. And so right now the LLDM people think that they're like the new sort of Jewish people, and so they employ that term, the Gentile. Just everyone in this building on this Sunday is not a Gentile, or maybe they're Gentiles because they're visiting, but everyone else in the world, literally just billions of people, it's all Gentiles, all of them. And so there's that twisting of the language. I recently did a couple of interviews with Morgan over at My Spiritual Life, and the second video actually dropped last night.
Yeah, I saw
And
that this morning.
yeah, I mean, it was awesome because I ended up talking about a number of like uh, uses of vocabulary that the church has, and I mentioned a bunch of them except for Gentiles. Gentiles is a really important one, and you came up with that. You confronted that like early on. Um, and this like did this there's this feature within something that you were just discussing also, is like there's this feature within this cult, but then within other cults too, but let's just speak about this one, where there's this precariousness, this insecurity of salvation at every turn, where it's like one can be born into the organization and you have to present the baby, and the baby's obviously not doing anything besides like just crying and wanting food and so on, but like the parents are told the salvation of this child right here is dependent upon you to being like good Christians, and you better like continue coming here and so on. You better not stray away, because if you stray away, you're also spoiling the child's chance at salvation. And then at some point, the child turns 14, presents themselves, baptizes himself, maybe, and then for sure, and then earns gains the Holy Spirit. Me and Julian did a video on that recently, and it's like, well, it's like at all these, let's say one meets all those requirements at the age of 14, and it's like, okay, I'm baptized, I'm actually free of sin, and I have received the Holy Spirit, and I am God has entered me, like God has helped me speak tongues. At that point, the thing they'll tell you right after that is like, oh well, take care of that, because at any moment you're about to enter your teenage years, and you can spoil it all with like premarital sex, and you can spoil it all with like getting into drugs and whatever. And then just like people take like the Holy Supper so often, once a year, and that is them renewing their pact with God. And then at some point it's just like, well, what's the like the, you just your salvation is never secure. Your salvation is never in the bag insofar as you're alive. Like, this is straight up what LLDM teaches. Like, your salvation is never in the bag and secure as long as you're alive, because as long as you're alive, there's temptation everywhere, and it's going to present itself in whatever manner it comes in, and it's going to spoil it all. So you have to be on alert for everything. If it's your son that starts to speak out, cut him off. If it's this person that starts to speak a little too much at your work, or is asking too many questions, stop talking to them, or maybe change schools. I don't know of anyone who's changed schools or anything, but like, they would definitely, people have taken these weird measures, shunning people in their own family, taking these weird measures to defend these ideas that they have of themselves. And so like, you're talking about how you're trying to help your partner get out, and your partner talks to you and listens to you and like understands that you're a good dude. And then but the thinking on the other end, on her end, from what LLDM has taught her and her family, is that like, well, the devil, the enemy, he's out to get your faith, he's out to take you out, and he's not going to come, with vinegar. If you're a bee, he's not going to come with vinegar. He's not going to try to attract you with that. He's going to try to attract you with honey. He's going to send you the most sly like challenge. He's not going to send you some guy at your door that knocks on your door and starts yelling like obscenities about your faith. He's going to send you like a nice, loving partner who's trying to get you out, and who seems to like want to, do good for you. Who seems like he's very genuine and whatnot, but don't trust it. Like, that's the devil. And so there's just like the precariousness of like the faith, and the sort of insecurity of salvation, and all that stuff. Like, it's all just gaslighting. It's all gaslighting to make people like myself radioactive, and to make people like you like radioactive. And you're new to the situation, and you obviously don't have the doctrine and the taboos like hammered into your head, and the way people that grew up in the church like I did, and the way that we had those, and the way that I had those things. You come with a fresh eye to it all, and with you with a fresh eye, who hasn't been yelled at for so many hours of their lives, and who doesn't really care about the taboos of investigation. You get online, you start reading your own things, and you piece together the puzzle pieces, and then you have your own, you're right along where everyone else is, where that's trying to make sense of the situation. And then it's just really hard to like compress all this down into someone, and like make them want to just change and restructure their whole thinking and like worldview. Basically you said a lot of amazing things, and I just wanted to touch on all of that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Like, what makes it hard for members to believe and for us to speak up is that they believe that they are with God. You know what I mean? Like, for you to start questioning things, you have to realize that, okay, like maybe in my church, it's not from God, but it's man-made. Or it's something like that. But they are just like, I was talking to my girl, and they're just so focused on that they are the only true church, and they have all these ideas of why their church is the truth, and it's really hard to break that down, because they're all false. They say that they go based on the Bible, but it's not. Like, they twist things a lot. So if I touch on one point, then they bring on another point, but that's also twisted. Then I can't really talk about the point one if the point B is twisted, and that's what they back up with to protect their point A. And like, I really need to talk about like why apostle is false, but their whole doctrine is based on the apostle. And when I say that, they're like, oh, you're like attacking my belief, or like. And like when I was saying that, like this Mason guy, there are a lot of evidences. They were like, you're talking against men of God, which is like you're talking against God. So you're going to be like you're going to be cursed, basically. So like they can't question things, because they believe that this man, God is with him, God speaks through him. So you questioning him, you doubting him, is basically questioning God. They have that mentality. Then you can't really understand or reason things out of it, because you're just so focused on this idea. And another thing is that they believe that they're the chosen one, like they are the light of the world. They are the special chosen one that God chose to save them, and other people who don't see it, who don't believe the same thing, they are the unlucky ones. Like, God didn't choose them. They're blind.
Yeah, that's literally their thinking. I haven't said it explicitly on the channel, but that is your thinking, where it's like, we're the chosen ones, and that God helped us. God let us be born at this time period, to at the same time that there's apostles on earth, but at the same time that there's also this thinking of like, okay, well, there's billions of other people walking the planet at the same time as you guys. You guys are trying to preach to them. You guys can't reach all of them. Is there a church in like Mongolia? Obviously not. And so what? All those people are going to go to hell. And so, and the way that LLDM like addresses this all the time is like, well, God just hasn't had mercy on their souls, and we aren't ones to question that. God just let God do what he wants with Mongolians and Kazakhstan and Sweden. I don't know, wherever else the church isn't present, and then just don't even question God. Focus on yourself, focus on your salvation. You're lucky enough to hear about the apostle. Just focus on that. And then, I just wanted to say that explicitly. But yeah, go on.
What you just mentioned, like if I to add up on your point, like one of the craziest belief that I first encountered was that there was no salvation after the last apostle's death till
Mm-hmm.
the first apostle of LLDM. And that's really long period of time. So basically you're telling me that all these people weren't saved. But if you look at the Bible, even before Jesus came to the earth, there was salvation, and that was through sacrifice of animals, like with blood. And after Jesus came, like in the Bible, it says that like Jesus is like the last, like offering, I guess. Like after Jesus is that, his blood is enough to save the entire world. So that's why the blood sacrifice thing and everything disappeared. So what I'm trying to say is that like in the Bible, there was always a way for salvation. So like them saying that there's no salvation during this period, like that makes no sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like them to say that like, oh, you need apostles to be saved and everything. And we know that like when Samuel died, the second apostle before Nason in 2014, there was a 1 week period where there was no apostle. And there were LLDM members, I'm pretty sure, who passed away during those times. Then like what happens to them? Like they have to pay. So because they don't have the apostle, like they're going to hell. Like just that their whole doctrine like doesn't make sense to me.
Well, they do have an internal logic for that actually, because Samuel dies the 8th of December, and then the church doesn't find out that Nathan is the apostle until the 14th. So it's basically like a week, let's say. But no, LLDM does have an internal logic, and the internal logic is that Samuel died, and then God revealed himself to Nathan that same day on the 8th of December. He revealed himself to Nathan, and then he said, Nathan, you're the apostle, blah, blah, blah. You're in charge of all these people, and the church is going to grow unimaginably. And there's a lot of things to point out that Nathan reports that God told him, but they make the story seem very stupid. But no, by LLDM's logic, they say that those people that did die that week before Nathan revealed himself as being the apostle to everyone, those people did have a chance of salvation because Nathan's in charge of them, for that week. He was only silent that week because God told him to honor the body of Samuel for that week, and then you can reveal yourself. So yeah, they have a response to that, but still, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just this. You guys are still talking about this dumb idea about this man who's supposedly like the medium between God and the heavens, and between God, Jesus, the heavens, and the rest of humanity. Yeah. One thing I want to add that you reminded me of is that LLDM like very clearly knows it does this, and members do this, and they do this on a daily basis where they hear the bishops, where they hunker down, they double down, they isolate themselves, they insulate themselves from criticism, they refuse to listen to other religions because they're like, no, mine is right. I've known this my whole life. This is what they've told me since I was a little kid. LLDM knows that they do this. LLDM knows that they hunker down like this. But it's interesting because like people go out into the ministry, and people go out in the street to go preach, or even at school. People are at school and they try to talk to their classmates about something, or their workmates, and basically, LLDM knows what it is like to hunker down and not listen, and close your ears and close your eyes and make noise so you don't hear the person casting doubt into you. They know what that's like. They know what it is like to do that. But then they also know what it's like to encounter it. And so, like people, LLDM members have like ran into Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and any other, and Catholics and so on, and any other group, and I've heard LLDM members express all the time how much frustration they have with other people when they try to speak to them, and then the things don't click with them, and the things don't click with the people, and then LLDM's like, God damn it, these people just want to stay stuck in this thing, they don't want to listen, this and this, and this and this, and they're only in that church because their parents were in it, and they're just trying to follow tradition. They don't know how to think for themselves. Well, the thing is that like LLDM can be accused of the exact same thing, and in fact, like for me, like these very high demand coercive religious groups uh, only only survive, so the part of their survival for so long, and part of their growth and sustaining whatever numbers that they have, they've reached that by having mechanisms like that taught to their members, teaching them just every week to look out for the person that's going to try to cast doubt in you this upcoming week. And you better you better you better watch yourself. Your spirituality is your chance of salvation is always precarious. It's always very fragile, and you can lose it in a second. And um and then of course, like the another way that they try to keep people in is by teaching them that, like, hey, whenever you have a doubt, don't that says more about you than it says about the doubt that you think that you have. It says more about you than about this argument that you may be developing. And so they tell members that, like, doubt yourself before you doubt the actual church. And no matter what, whether your doubt is legitimate or not, which, according to LLDM, it's going to be like, no, your doubt is not legitimate, so don't even start. And they say, well, whether you find yourself doubting or not, at the end of the day, all you have to do in response is pray more. Just consecrate yourself more, isolate yourself more, change jobs if you have to, change schools if you have to. The people at that school are just talking to you too much, and um, they just have all these different mechanisms for how to keep people like isolated in this thing. And it's weird because those same mechanisms are employed by other groups, and then LLDM complains that other groups use them, but LLDM uses them. But then at the same time, they say that they aren't a coercive group, and that everything here is done by free will and whatnot. And yeah, it's just like really frustrating.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like adding to that, like, just when it's called, it's also with like how you deal with your ex-members too. So like they say that you're not supposed to talk to ex-members because they left because they wanted to be part of the world and everything. And LLDM used this the same thing. They say that, oh, ex-members who left, they left because they don't want to be with God
Yeah,
and just become a drug
they
addict
say that
or
there's
worship
no legitimate
Satan.
reason to leave. They say there's no legitimate reason to leave, and that person may say that they know all this stuff about the case or whatever, but really, no, they just wanted to go have premarital sex. They just wanted to go be queer, or they just wanted to go have drugs and stuff. But then it's tragic because when people do leave and they feel like they have a legitimate reason to leave, they leave, and then they're shunned, obviously. And then people can do whatever they want with themselves. Now that they're out of the church, they can start going to clubs and whatever. And some people do fall into like addictions or just unhealthy habits. And the LLDM member I've seen LLDM members who point that stuff out and taunt people for that. But the thing is, like, no, it's like this is an actual like side effect of the shunning culture that you guys have implemented so well, that like other people just have to find these sort of outs to the isolation that they end up feeling. Yeah, I wanted to add that.
Yeah. And it's really funny because they say that, oh, you're not supposed to like judge other people, or like it's God is love, and like you gotta treat your brothers and sisters with love and peace. But when it comes to the ex-members, they just start sending that shame, like you're like basically you're the world, like you're like with the devil. Like they have that mentality, which is pretty sad. But like they don't really understand the ex-members view, because like me personally talking to all these ex-members, like we're all same people. They got out not because they want to do their own thing, but they got out because they have seen the actual truth. Like they know what is actually going on. So like the members need to recognize that.
Mhm.
And also talking about the um cult stuff, like I was talking to my girl about, like I was basically trying to bring up other cults to see like her point of view, like what do you think about this group and this group.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're pretty smart about it. Like they see why it's a cult, like they give all these reasons why it's not the true organization. But I feel like they have misunderstanding when it comes to cults, because they say like cults they force you to do things, but we have freedom. That's what they say. But if you think about it, like if you were to for example, like date someone who's from outside, let's say, like that's her case, like obviously yes, you have the freedom to do so, but another thing that you have to consider is that once you do, they start sending you that chain, and then they start saying like God is going to punish you, and like you're not going to be saved. So yes, you have the control, but basically like you're putting a gun at someone's head and saying like, are you going to do it or not? And obviously like they don't see that they're being manipulated mentally, and even though someone is not physically forcing them to do certain things, like you have the control over like your mentality and like emotionally, like if you do this, then like you're going to go to hell, you're not going to be with God, you're going to make God curse you or something like that. So
Yeah,
like that
it's
they
not a
need to
physical
see.
like gun to their head, but it's still like a in the way that they preach and the way that they
Mm-hmm.
teach you certain things and certain practices and the way they justify certain things. They basically put a spiritual gun to your soul, you know, where they say, hey, you can date people outside of the organization all you want, you can do that, but hey, if you have a child with them or if you get married with them, you can't get married in the church. If you have a child with them, well, guess what? Between you and God, you know, God may not give your child salvation because one of the parents is like out of the church. And then what happens when the child reaches 14? And what are you going to present them? Are you going to be able to convince them to come to the church and not leave out into the world? And your husband isn't going to be you know your partner who's not part of the church. Your partner is not going to um, he's not going to be a true believer. You know, well, what if he wants to try to stop you from going to certain trips or certain things in the future? You know, just all that. Like it's or even like the way tithing works. You know, people like the way that people like vacate the seats within the church at the end of the service, you know, one by one to go down to the very front, to walk down the aisle to the very front to give their money. And if you don't have money to give, well, you're just going to stand at the bench like an idiot, and you're going to have to let people like hop over you, you know, and then you're just going to and then everyone's walking up and you're just going to stand there alone, and then like people are going to notice that you're not giving money, and then like you can't tell me that this organization doesn't have some sort of doesn't have like socially coercive elements within it, because it most absolutely definitely does.
Mm-hmm.
And like and yeah, I come across this point too often where people are just like yeah, we're not forced, you know, whatever they say from the pulpit is just advice, and you know, whether you take it or not, or however you take it, however you apply it to your life, that's between you and God. And it's like yeah, for sure, you know, it's between like me and God, but also like there's elements of like my spirituality, elements of like my spiritual maturity that are made so public within the rest of the organization. And it's like, guys, you know, these people are using you all collectively against each other, using your all your eyeballs collectively against each other to keep each other like within the group, you know. Like actually I won't get into that, but yeah, you know, like there's just these like lines of thinking that they know what a cult is, they can learn what a cult is, but when it comes to them, they just can't. They're taught there's mechanisms in place to keep them from applying that same criteria to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to you know, they make them afraid in the first place. Yeah.
I also believe that like when it comes to like these members, like I noticed a lot of people struggle when it comes to talking to their loved ones who are still in the cult
Hmm.
LLDM. And just I also have some outsider friends like who was trying to get their best friend out and everything. And whenever we have these conversations, there are a lot of disagreements and arguments and a lot of emotions involved, and it's really hard for
Hmm.
like like the both sides, because on our ends who knows the truth, it's like I really want you to know the truth but you guys don't see it, and on their end it's like I have the truth and you're trying to pull me away. And like, and they're really nice people, they're really innocent and kind people, and that they're trying to help us too because they believe that they have the truth, but they just don't know that whatever they have is not the truth. So in
Hmm.
cases like this, having these conversations is really hard because like us, we have to live in this fear of like losing them and them shunning us. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people just hold things in. It can't speak up, and that's a lot of, you know, emotionally and mentally draining things to do. And on the member side too, like they're gonna probably think that like, oh, I really want my loved ones who left the organization or who don't believe in the organization to be saved, but they don't see it, they're blind, so they're also hurting emotionally. So it's very toxic on both sides. And whenever relationship is toxic, we are taught to, you know, like end things. But in this case, that's not it, because like we're supposed to help them, right? So when it comes to like my personal opinion of like how to help the members, I believe that like individually, like for us, like we have to stay patient and we have to be understanding and loving, because like if you were to talk to someone who's drunk to reason things out, they're gonna say, oh, I'm not drunk, I'm fine. But like, you know that they're drunk, and whatever they say, they can't think logically when they're drunk, and whatever actions that they do, like they're not doing it with their own critical thinking and all that. So that's how I see it whenever people who are in culture, like whenever I deal with them. So that being said, like you always have to be patient and loving when it comes to like conversations like this. And another thing that I strongly believe that we should do is that we shouldn't be forcing their beliefs, because they are taught that like we're the evil. So once we start screaming or forcing them to believe that like you guys are not in the true church, then they're gonna be like, okay, like this person is like acting like this, and I always thought that it's from the devil, so like I can see that. But if we like go slow, take time, be patient and loving when it comes to like communications like this, because what I tell my girl is like, I'm not trying to attack your beliefs, but what I'm trying to do is I want to know the truth, and if you have the truth, then I'll obviously listen to you. But reasons why I'm saying this is because I believe that whatever you believe is not true. So I want you to see my side, why I believe that is not true too. And and to get to the point, you have to sort of build that trust and love, and you have to be able to figure things out, how to communicate and understand each other. Like that's my first step, because if you know how to communicate things, then when things get emotional, then like you can calm yourself down. So like when I brought it up first time, I said you're in a call, and I kind of raised my voice, but now I never raise my voice whenever we talk about things like that. I try to take things more mature way, and I understand their perspective. So that kind of helps me to calm myself down too, because I'm like, okay, they don't know anything. And if I were to be in the same position, like if I was in a cult, then I would obviously want someone else to do the same to me. So like that's my mentality. And another thing that we have to keep in mind is that we can bring all this information, but if they're not ready to listen, then it's not going to work. Like they have to somewhat have some doubts or be prepared to see the different perspective too. Because like if you bring the horse to the water and if they don't drink it, then like we can't make them drink it. So I believe that like Naslun right now, he's not proven guilty yet, but the trial's coming up, and I know for sure that he's going to proven guilty. There's no way out. That's why lawyers are delaying the case and everything. And this is funny because the church says that like it's the court cases, like it's the court who's trying to delay the case, but it's their lawyers. But like what I'm trying to say
even
is
then,
that,
like the church just doesn't communicate that, like in all these dumb ideas that are floating around about how it's the prosecutors that are slowing the thing down, it's the judges that are all corrupt, and then eventually like this is a hit from the Catholic Church, and this isn't the first time that such a thing has happened, and Donald Trump might pardon Nelson Joaquin Garcia. Like I've heard all these things, and like all of these things are just like symptomatic of the fact that the church itself is not informing its members adequately at all, and because it doesn't do that, then people people just stay stuck with the simple explanations that they are given, and they're also told to stay hammered to, not hammered to, but like attached to, nailed to the dogmatism. Just stay stuck to the dogma, continue coming to church so often, continue to continue to isolate yourself from your family, don't listen to people, and this and this and this and this, and he's innocent and he's honorable, and it'll be proven soon, and just hold your horses and all that stuff. Just like that's always the response that's given. And yeah, it's frustrating. And like, like, thank you for sharing this. I feel like it is always important to sort of like to what you're saying is like meet them where they are, like don't
Right.
it can backfire if you approach them and say like, hey, you're in a cult, this and this and this and this, and if you raise your voice and stuff, you have to meet them where they are, and give them, let them know that you understand what they know and what they think, because on the flip side, like, they just so very obviously do not understand what we, all that we know, that going back, and then all the sort of like arguments in the world of just evidence and arguments that we have on our side. And then of course, like, this like, it also comes with this counter narrative, like once someone starts to come out of the organization, the narrative that they were given that was just hammered into them for so long has to be wiped away. And then filled within is like just this counter narrative that we have about how actually this thing was a cult the whole time, guys, and you all were stuck in this thing, and here's how we're going to re-explain all the time that you spent in your life, within this thing. Yeah, so sorry to cut you off, but basically I wanted to add like those points that you had there.
Yeah, but I was almost done too. Like
Yeah, go for it.
what I'm trying to say is like you just basically have to wait, and since now someone is going to be proven guilty and he's going to get arrested, and a lot of higher up people are going to get arrested, like church is going to go down for sure as more evidence come out, and you just have to wait to that point where they start to question things, and they start to have all these informations of him admitting to his charges and all that, because they don't see it right now. They say that, oh, it's Photoshop, it's deep fake, it's someone who looks like him, and everything that doesn't make sense, because I personally do Photoshop, and if you do Photoshop, like if you put it in the editing software, you can tell if you did Photoshop or not. And these are the FBI people, like, who are experts in this to see if the evidence is true or not, and they said that it is clear that it is him. Like, they said that. So that's why lawyers started to admit their charges. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, after they know all these things, then that's when you can start to talk about these things. So that's why I'm waiting for that day. So I'm just gathering my information, and you just have to basically guide them to question things on their own and help them to see what you see, like, instead of just trying to put everything in their head, because we have to think about it in their perspective. Like, this is their life, this is their reality, like that's how they grew up and what they believe in. And suddenly one day someone comes up to you and say, your entire life is wrong, your entire belief is wrong. Obviously they're not gonna listen to that or accept that. And this programming process is really hard for cult members too. It takes them a lot of time to wake up to the reality. And even after they wake up, like, I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if you experienced it too, but a lot of cult members, after they wake up, they go through these things where, like, you go to like a club or something, and then you feel like you're doing something really, really bad.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I still get that to this day. I so very firmly just have left this organization. I spend so many hours, talking shit like all day long. But yeah, I'll end up going to do something. There's some activity I engage in, or I go somewhere, or I realize, man, I haven't gone to church in this long or this long, And yeah, most definitely there are those aftershocks, and over time, like, people definitely get to handle them better. I literally have talked to like 2-3 people recently that have told me about their own like aftershocks, after leaving, and still having that sort of lingering feeling within them of just like, damn, what if I'm going to hell for this? Have I really been strayed away? Have I really, look how far? But mostly, like, my response to it is like, just reframe that and pretend like you're talking to the person. Pretend like President you is talking to the person that was once stuck in the cult, and just like, yeah, you've come like a long way, but you have to understand that, for a long time you had certain ideas hammered into you, and it's going to take a while for certain parts of your brain to like rewire and to not be so loud anymore, and to just be calmer about where your life is headed. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely have that. I also want to add that this point that you're sort of making, and this is something that I repeat often on the channel, and I'll repeat it here too. Is it's just like, well, one of the foundational things that I think everyone should have when approaching La Luz del Mundo members, or when someone's trying to deprogram themselves out or trying to help others deprogram out, is that it's this quote by Majid Nawaz, and it's no idea is above scrutiny, and no person is below dignity. So one of the things implicated there is that people are not their ideas. You know, people and ideas are just separate things, and people can just change their ideas on a whim. You know, and people and ideas are themselves like replicable in other people, and they spread and so on, and people spread these ideas. But basically, the thing is that like La Luz del Mundo is a set of ideas. Believing in La Luz del Mundo and the doctrine and the apostle and all that stuff, that's a set of ideas. And people should recognize that they are not their ideas. And La Luz del Mundo tries very hard, and so too do a bunch of other religions. They try really hard to really entangle the ideas within the person and their own identity with themselves, you know, by like getting them in the ministry, making salvation so important to them, making isolating them to this community of just La Luz del Mundo members, making them attribute all their life's blessings and achievements and accomplishments to the apostle and to the church and to their faith and so on. They really try to entangle the La Luz del Mundo identity, the La Luz del Mundo membership into your identity. They really try to weave these ideas into you as a person. And so, yeah, just one of the things is just like, no, it's like, guys, you are not your ideas. You know, your ideas, the ideas that you have are typically just hammered into you through certain mechanisms, and you should not be identifying yourselves with them, because when you identify yourselves with them, it's so hard to like let go of them and start to like challenge them, you know. And so for us, it's like, you know, La Luz del Mundo is a set of ideas, and is just like a motherload of just like really bad and really dumb ideas for us. That's how I view it. And so, you know, we have to tell people that, to them, you know, back to themselves, that like, hey, you know, you as a person have a set of ideas within you that is just not cool, but you, because we recognize and respect your dignity, we can, you know, we want to get these ideas out of you. We want to put just, you know, we probably want to put new ideas in there, but like we want to get these dumb ideas out of you, because we recognize that you are a dignified like person who can think for themselves, and who should not be like spiritually tied to the ankle, you know, to this thing, you know, that has caused so much damage to a lot of people. There's one other thing that I was going to say. I was going to say that like, you know, just people aren't their ideas, and so there's all these mantras of you know, from the moment that Nathan was arrested, there were all these mantras about like Nathan's innocent, Nathan's honorable, Nathan is irreplaceable, etc. But mostly like just innocent and honorable. Those were two things that were just out there just constantly. And it's tragic, because like in the situation, you know, La Luz del Mundo is full of just a bunch of good people, just a bunch of good, well-meaning people that you know, take their spirituality very seriously, and they really want to have a relationship with God, and they really want to do right by God, and they want to live like dignified, you know, just respectable lives on this earth, and not drink and not smoke and not go to jail and all that stuff. I get that, like I respect that, but the thing is that like, guys, if you know what you guys are like being taught to chant, that Nathan is innocent and honorable and all that stuff, it's actually you guys that are the ones that are innocent and honorable on your own. You know, you guys can be innocent and honorable on your own without having to attribute it to Nathan, because he sets the example, and because he prays for me all the time, and all that stuff. And the thing is that like, again, people are only chanting innocent and honorable for Nathan because they have the La Luz del Mundo world of ideas so entangled into their own identity that of course, you know, when people like us, you know, march along and we're like, actually, he's not innocent and honorable. Here's all these reasons why you might want to start doubting. Here's all these ways the organization is not doing right by you, and it is sort of going behind your back and behaving differently and contradicting itself. You know, when we come up with that stuff, they you know, they hunker down, they double down, they get away from it. They just can't stand it. Yeah, it's really hard that it's really hard to sort of engage all this stuff. And I'm glad that we have someone like you to help to give us this like perspective, given that you've only known about it for a short period of time, but like what it is like to encounter all this.
Like members just need to know that like we are not talking trash because we want to attack their beliefs or faith. We talk trash because they are not the truth, and like there are a lot of evidences of why like they're not with God, and all these Nason and higher up people in the organization, they just take control over people financially, sexually, emotionally, and just everything. And there was a shooting, right? And they just victimized themselves when it comes to stuff like that. And like the shooting that happened in Houston,
Yeah.
My girl told me like all these people try to attack us because we're the truth and we're just being persecuted, like the Bible said. But what she needs to know is that people in the Bible who were persecuted, they were persecuted for preaching that like Jesus is the Christ and all that, not because of like their leader going through all these things of child pornography and human trafficking and all that. And even the shooting part, I read in the article that he did it because of how church brainwashed his family. I'm not saying that shooting is the right thing, but like you need to like try to understand why people do these things, and they don't know anything about it because they only see the news that the church post, like the church signed paper, that they only focus on that. So about the court case or whenever something like this happens, they don't care. They only look at what the church says. That's like information control. And there was another shooting after, you said Los Angeles, right? And there was
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Like a week or two after. Yeah, so you can go on. I'll touch on it in a bit. But yeah, go on.
So basically, there was no victims or anything like that, but they would also use that as in like, oh, we're being persecuted and we're the victims, and like the world is trying to get us because we're the truth, kind of thing. And it's very sad that like they live in that mentality. Like I feel like another thing why they can't wake up is that they're just so stuck in this mindset that they are special. So that's why they're blind.
Yeah. So what you're referring to, and thank you for bringing this up. I know we made a point that we wanted to bring these two incidents up about how the church has always just had this narrative about how it's being persecuted, and that this arrest of Nason is only just the latest persecution in a long line of them, and they and like you said, fine, Nason's being persecuted, your apostles being persecuted, and so have a bunch of other apostles in the history of the world. But hey, what your dude is being persecuted for, he's arrested not for like preaching the word of God, preaching the right word of God on like at like a market on like at like Saturday at 9 a.m. No, he's there because of just different reasons, and very like damning reasons. And it's just like, and from my perspective, it's just like, God, your God, that God of LLDM is pretty shitty. He's treating y'all like really difficultly. He's allowing these great trials of faith to happen, and you guys are just kind of take it like that. And it's like it's just no. So basically, onto the shootings. The shootings were so there was one that happened in Houston, where I grew up, in the church that I grew up in mid to late July. And so what it is that it was a Saturday. I'm gonna recollect the details from my head, but people, like, please feel free to go look this up on your own. There was a shooting on at a Saturday midday to morning, like 11, 12, somewhere there, outside of the church in Houston. And so the highway is Highway 59. Actually, my first home was literally like that parking lot where that church is right now. That was my first home when I was a kid. And then those apartments got torn down to make room for the parking lot for this big church. A couple years, like a decade later, after I was born. So yeah, just a lot of my life was lived in this one small section of Highway 59. So there's Highway 59, and basically a dude comes up and drives, and there's security footage of this, and then he sort of stops, and I think he waits for like a couple seconds, maybe like a minute or something. Then he takes some shots. He pulls a gun out, takes several shots at a window that no one was harmed, obviously, and it was just shots at that window. and then the person like drives away and goes down the freeway, and then somewhere, and like I believe the story, I believe the what happens next is that he is apprehended for sure, like very immediately after. But I think the story goes that he drove down to a gas station, and a couple people chased him, and then they cornered him somehow, and they turned him in to the police. I don't know the dude's name off the top of my head. I personally don't know the dude that I don't remember him from growing up in that church. I don't really know his family. I believe when I heard the name of the dude, I tried to think of like people with that last name. I couldn't think of anyone. But basically, he did that, and it was just really dumb. And we obviously just don't we should not be resorting to violence like that. And in fact, like things like this backfire on the LLDM community, because, we'll explain right now. So yeah, no one was hurt, and they captured him. And then the dude in talking to his lawyer or to a reporter or something, he says, I did that because they're brainwashing my family. And like, hey, I agree with that too. These people are brainwashing people, but like, no, that is absolutely not the answer. It is completely stupid. It's completely destructive. It harms us. And like, I'm just so glad that no one got hurt there, because it just would have been so much worse. And so what happens in the days or two after that is that the minister who's there, Bigvai Estrada, and shout out to Bigvai. I hope he's watching this. He's literally like the minister right now of the place that I grew up in. I don't know. He knows me actually. He's talked about me in meetings with certain people, and they report this back to me. And I don't know. I hope he's doing well, and I hope he sees the light. And so basically, Bigvai is, and so I don't think. So for sure, like charges are pressed against the dude, and he's going to jail and so on. I hope he does. He deserves it. But Bigvai Estrada, then tries to him and like just LLDM in general, and the LLDM propaganda machine tries to twist the story into a story of just like persecution, and saying that like, okay, fine, that dude doesn't like our church. The shooter doesn't like our church, but he doesn't like our church as a result of all the bad reporting on us. He has been radicalized. He has consumed so much information, so much negative information about us, that he has started to resort to this. And guys, this has happened. And again, this is another test from God, and he's just trying to scare us. No, this is another test from God. The devil's just trying to scare us. That God is observing. He just wants us to make sure that he wants this to happen so that we can like make sure that our faith is completely correct and whatnot. To knit us together closer as a community. And then like Bigvai Estrada is like on the local TV, the local news. Like, let's say like, I'm pretty sure it wasn't ABC 13, but it was like NBC or CBS, like Channel 2 or something, like some sort of local news reporters go over, and then Bigvai is like showing off like, hey, look, we were shot here and we're being persecuted and this and this. And it was really awkward, because one, they're very obviously trying to like extract as much juice as they can out of the situation, and trying to paint everyone on the Ex-LLDM side as being like people that are on the verge of being radicalized by reporters and journalists and so on. But it was gross to see that happen for that reason. They're trying to twist it, but then it was gross to see it also because it was like, well, what you guys are like, why is this dude talking to the media that you guys aren't supposed to be reading in the first place? Mind you, this is local media, and a number of local news reporters, news stations did talk about the arrest of Nason, and sometimes do report a little bit on it. And so the thing was just like, why are you you are engaging with the media when it benefits you, when it benefits your narrative of like us being persecuted and whatnot. But then when it comes to like, when that same station probably wants to run a story about how Nason was arrested, or maybe they're going to run a story on like a development within the case or something like that, your same members aren't allowed to go see that. It was just a really gross like moment to see happen. And again, like, I want that dude to I want the shooter to go to jail, and I hope he does. And he does not deserve, he shouldn't be doing that shit. And everyone completely like disavowed that. I immediately, I saw it with my own eyes. Everyone in Ex-LLDM like got completely worried about about one, what the fuck was happening, and then two was like, damn, this is not cool. This makes us look terrible. We shouldn't be doing this crap. And and one more thing, this is the last thing I'll say about this one Houston shooting, is that the church definitely has been persecuted in the past by Catholics, like we're going way back to like the 30s, 40s, 20s, whenever, when Aaron is preaching in Guadalajara or wherever else he's preaching, and he has tomatoes thrown at him or whatever. Yeah, definitely. The dude was persecuted, and I get that, like, that's not cool, but and then when Nathan is arrested, some churches are, I've totally, some churches were like spray painted. There's been reports of like rocks being thrown at churches and stuff like that. Like, I get that, that's not cool. That shouldn't be, it should not be happening. But I understand that you guys have this fear of like persecution within you. But hey, when it comes to this other, but when other incidents come, and when the dude gets arrested in the first place, like, you guys have to understand that you guys have to understand that some of the way these things are twisted sometimes is really just done to like manipulate you and to make you feel like you yourself and your identity and your livelihood as a person, which is so entangled with LLDM, is being attacked because LLDM is being like attacked. And so yeah, I think you I think I mentioned to you the other day that I had gone recently to the church. I driven past it like a month ago, and it was I don't know, it was kind of uncanny. It was kind of uncanny to recognize that, like, I grew up in this certain section of the highway, and then this one church community has had this thing happen to them for the past 2 years, and then there's a shooting that happens. Someone took it like that seriously. It was kind of uncanny, like, being there and seeing that happen. That was a long ass rant, but I feel like I just had to make all these different points about this stuff to you. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that it's very sad to me because like all these informations out there, like we live in a generation where there are a lot of information that we can encounter, but all these members, they're not allowed to see that or anything, and even the ones who are trying to help them, like, they don't listen to us. And even within the ex-members or people who are trying to wake them up, like, I understand their perspective of like, oh, I really want them to get out, I really hate the cult, but they have to see that how we approach is really important. Like I said early in the beginning, if we approach with the anger or hate, like, I understand why they have that, but if we do that, then that's just gonna do more damage to them. Like, it's gonna make people get into the cult even more. So we have to be wise of how we approach to these situations. And that's the one of the mistake that I made in the beginning, that I told you that, like, oh, you're in a cult and all that. Like, you're not supposed to say these things. We have to understand their perspective, that they believe that they have the truth and they are being wise. So we have to, like, treat them like we're talking to like a drunk person. Like, we have to meet where they are. And like, talking about the cults, like, they usually have the charismatic leader who have the authoritarian of, like, who can speak God, or who's like a godlike figure, and they have their own doctrine, and they you know take advantage of people financially, sexually, or others. So, like, when you look at the organization, like, they're the characteristics of cults, and they don't really understand what cult is. Like, they take it so extreme. But, like, if you think about it, the cults or organization who manipulate you, like, even like MLM, like, who says like you can be rich, like, join us, like, even them.
But by MLM, you mean multi-level marketing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So all these people, like, approach you in a nice way. They're not gonna be like, oh, we're the cult, we're the evil, I'm going to take all of your money, and like, they're not gonna preach you like that. My girl always tells me, you don't know anything about a church, just come and see how it is. But you also have to keep in mind that just because the church looks nice, it looks nice. LLDM church, it looks beautiful, I agree with that, but like, you can't just believe in something that looks nice, and because you feel something there, like, what you have to know is that really the truth, what is behind there. And you have to look at all this other aspects, not just feeling good or being good, because a lot of cults will show you as like, oh, we're the nice people, but like in reality it's them trying to, like control your mind. And yeah, these people are nice, but the doctrine that they have is going to, you know, mind control these people. So you have to like look into like how they are. So like, do they control any information that you have? Do they like overhype the leader? And do they say that the world is the enemy and the ex-members are the enemy? Do they have the peer pressure of like, when it comes to like spirituality, like do they make you feel like you're the bad person, like you don't know anything, you're far away from God for not doing certain things? Like we have to look at all these things to come to the conclusion that whether this organization is called or not. And and like if you think about it, just looking at the big picture, not just LLDM, a lot of cults do the same thing: information control, peer pressure, shunning, and all that. And LLDM does the same thing. And and these members need to kind of understand what cult is, because I feel like they don't understand like much about the cult.
Yeah. I found it interesting that how you mentioned earlier that you with your partner would show her like the content of other cults, and then for some reason it just they don't see that and like see a mirror in terms of just what the features of their organization that make them a cult. And like you were like explaining that there's like certain coercive demands within cults, and then there's almost always a sort of central charismatic leader who is somehow like untouchable in terms of just like being able to question him or having some sort of being able to challenge him. Then there's also this sort of like feature of how these sort of coercive practices that happen. And for La Luz del Mundo, one of the most egregious is the attempt at getting the revival. And then there's also certain features of just like black and white thinking, never letting not letting current members speak to ex-members, teaching current members that anyone who leaves can never ever have a legitimate reason to leave, and therefore when someone does leave, they try to get you out too. Well, you're always you're just always at risk of these people don't have anything good to say to you, and so cut them off, just right from the start. And then like features of how within the cult about how like people can't leave, and then of course like it's always this, it's just like you're this wrapping up of your identity with the set of ideas that the cult is. And then also not letting people like even want to fancy the idea of leaving, because their their salvation is so precarious and so delicate at all moments that they have to be on guard at all times. They have to keep the black and white thinking on at all times to make sure that they can take care of themselves. So yeah, I think it's totally important to like always remind people of that. Just what is it that makes a cult, and how is it different from like the more mainstream religions? Yeah, I think that's great. It's good stuff. And actually, one more thing, we didn't touch on the Las Vegas shooting. I just remembered. So there was a shooting in Houston, and that was in like mid-July, late July, somewhere there. People can look this up. I don't remember the name of the shooter or anything like that, but I actually should look this up soon just to see like how he's doing, just to make sure that he does go to jail and so on, because it's just not cool. Not like no one on the Ex-LLDM side is actually like approving of tactics like that, because that's not a tactic at all, like absolutely not. So that happens like mid to late July. Then I think like a week or two later, there's another incident that happens in Las Vegas, probably like a month ago almost, but like there's another incident that happens in Las Vegas. And so Las Vegas has this is a certain church location that they have, and it is not like a nice big elaborate temple. It's probably part of a strip mall, or at least the building that it's in. It's not like big and elaborate, like the Houston one. The thing that happens in the Las Vegas one is that there's the security camera footage of some people, I think at least two people, trying to shoot shoot a gun into the building, into a window, a certain window, at like 1 a.m. To break into the thing. And I'm not too sure if they do break in and if they do take stuff like computers and stuff, but they definitely shoot. There's definitely like marks on the windows. But the thing that happened is that the church tried to twist it as like, when the shooting happened, people were inside and they were trying to harm the people. But it was like, no, actually, the dudes just you guys just have like a crappy building, and the dudes were just trying to like bust the window so they could go inside. Now, mind you, they're shooting a certain window towards the ground, not really like upwards. I'm pretty sure, if I recall, but for sure they're shooting one window, and it's just like, these dudes aren't trying to like break into these dudes aren't trying to like break in and like kill people that are part of the organization. They're just there at 1 a.m. to steal your computers and your chairs and whatever. So yeah, I bring that up really quickly because again, like, some of this stuff just happens from people that are part of the community, like the Houston thing where the dude said that the organization was brainwashing his family and he wanted to respond. But then sometimes just things out in the world, just random, just two random strangers probably random strangers tried to break into the church in Las Vegas. And then again, the cult, like, he hones onto this and tries to twist it into a story about how people outside of the organization are being radicalized. And again, like, the twisting is happening, and the twisting is successful in some, with some people because of the black and white thinking, because of the narrative that the church has insisted for so long, so consistently at like every turn, that it makes like incidents like this just difficult to just more things to like have to deal with how to approach losing one of the members.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask you, so given that you've only really recently come into this like whirlwind of our world, what are you did you know about other cults like prior to this? What can you share about that?
I actually have like a lot of knowledge when it comes to cults. Like Mormons, there was Witness, and there were cults like all over the world. There's actually ones very similar to LLDM, one in Philippines. They also have the Apostle and everything, and they also
Iglesia Ni Cristo is what you're referring to. I don't know too much about them, but definitely like the name comes up often in discussions.
That one is very similar to LLDM because their grandfather and father and son, like, they all have become the apostle and won the church, and it's pretty big too. And like, I knew about the cults, but like, I never had anyone who are, like, in the serious cult. So I just, like, I know that these are cults, and I know what kind of cults are, but after knowing that like my loved one is in there, I did my own research to learn more about cults, of like, why do people fall into the cults. And it's usually people who are innocent and who are going through something. Like, a lot of people in LLDM, I'd say that they somewhat have like the family issues, and they're not, they don't know a lot of things. They just need a place to rely on, like, they're emotionally damaged, so they take the advantage of these people. And it's like, I'm still doing more research on like how to talk to them, how to disprogram them, how to also like prepare myself mentally, because like on our side, to wake them up, it's very difficult too. But I believe that with love and patience, and like, as long as we don't give up, even though it's hard, like, I do believe that they will wake up. And when they do wake up, it's when they will see all of our efforts and what we've been going through. And like, I do believe that it all comes down to the time. We just have to be strong. And I encourage all the ex-members who are in the same situation. Like, I met some of them, and they tell me that they cry a lot, and like, they go through all these things, and it's very hard. But like, I do believe that like, after some period of time, like the true light will shine.
It's funny how like a lot of the phrasing and the sort of mantras can be flipped back on like on the church. So like just you guys are just most definitely are not light. And if anything, like you guys are not being taught how to shine light upon the situation and learn like the facts for yourselves. And then at the same time, Nathan has had that mantra of like mi tiempo ha llegado, my time has come. And it says, yeah, it's different. It's just like, yeah, your time has come. You've really fucked up, and your time in your time in prison is like it's looming over you. It's coming. It's heading in this way. I asked that because like one of the very like one of the main interesting things about our organization and what we're going through right now is that our organization is pretty small and pretty fragile enough to the point where there is a possibility that we can like completely end this thing within the next handful of years. It's gonna take a lot of work, and there's more like court cases to follow and stuff. But the thing is that like the internet is a thing now, and so many people are connecting and trying to like get out of this, trying to get themselves out of this organization and get others out of the organization. And we have the thing is that like as opposed to the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses or Iglesia Ni Cristo or something like that, is that we as a community collectively have this like trial heading towards us. We have this giant moment of reckoning headed towards us, and people are going to have to pass through it, and not everyone's going to make it. And when at the end of the day, some people are probably going to still stay in the organization, but like there's just a lot more details that are going to come out, and a lot more people are going to, maybe more people will flip, maybe more people will come out. People are going to have tougher conversations with amongst their families. The trial is going to be in the news, and so people at people's workmates, coworkers might start to inquire just a little too much, and they might start to tap into, and we might even have like more people like you, John, that come into play for other people in their own lives to help others get out. I try to stick like really I try to stay positive about knowing that we are all collectively going through this one moment that will eventually ideally help help people get out, and once we get past it, and then of course like while we're all waiting, while people like you and I are waiting for the prosecutors and the judge and everything to just to settle and go, proceed forward, the community is very vulnerable right now, and that's why they try to twist so much propaganda, and that's why that explains so much of their behavior for the past 2 years. And then when it comes to us, it's like we're just here like hammering at it, just trying to cause more fractures within families, trying to just amp the pressure up on people, trying to convince this person and this person, and trying to like help them and have a conversation with them about how they can speak to the rest of their family, and see if they can be the first domino to fall within the family, and see if other dominoes will follow. We just have to keep hitting like while the iron's hot. And when that moment of reckoning does come, like we should set that our goal is to like literally set an environment where it is just so hard to want to stick to these ideas, and then once the trial will do its own thing, and that'll like ideally help people get out, and just really just like be like the last straw that breaks their back. And so for right now, we're trying to throw as much straw in everyone's back as we can.
When
Did
it,
you have
when
any?
it
Mhm. Go
so
on.
when it comes to this, when Nassim was arrested, before he said that like something big is about to come, you know what I mean? Like he was basically giving somewhat revelation, but like biblically revelation, it has to be specific. So like I'd say that it's against the Bible too. But like what I'm trying to say is that he gave this idea where like something big is gonna come. So when he was arrested, members were like, "Oh, this is what he talked about." And recently in the apostolic letter, he also said this year is gonna be tough. And like if I'm being honest to you, let's say I was the leader of the cult, I can literally say the same thing. I'm going through the case like trial, and I see that like there are all these evidences that I'm going to go down and get arrested. I can be like something big is gonna come. Like I can literally say the same thing, and these people just see that and they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is God speaking through him," and this is like
and speaking vaguely, at that, not even like specifically. And
right.
yeah.
Yeah, so like like stuff like that. I think that's like, I would say that LLDM is very smart when it comes to mind control and, controlling people's mind like that. But
Mhm.
like that's gonna be the tough, like whenever like things happen when he get arrested, like people will be like, oh, this is what the apostle talked about, and they could stay. But I believe that long term, like they believe in the apostle so strongly, like their entire belief is centered in the apostle. And if the apostle is arrested, if it's gone, then like what are you gonna do? And I've saw that, like like you mentioned, like they try to get rid of the logo, and
Yeah.
in the past on their
Yeah, I
website.
totally. Yeah, I totally want to talk about that. Yeah, go on, sir. Go on. I'm excited you
Yeah.
brought this up.
Yeah, like on the website in the past, apostle, there was literally a picture of him on their website, and now they get rid of everything. And in their doctrine too, like the songs, hymns that they sing, there was like the most beautiful man and stuff like that. They got rid of that too. And
Mhm,
if the doctrine that God gave us is perfect, then why are you
mhm.
getting rid of things now?
Dude,
And
I think actually I can share my. We should go to the LLDM website, share the screen, and like show them how much they have buried the dude.
like they're
Yeah, go
trying
on.
to step aside, but like what I'm thinking is like they can't get rid of the apostle completely, because that's really their core belief. So like when he
Yeah.
gets arrested, like what are you gonna do? And I
Hmm.
heard like some people saying that like Nason wasn't the actual apostle, like there's someone else or something. Like it's not something that I can clarify, but I heard some members talking about things like this. But like even so, like I believe that after he gets arrested, and the higher up people get arrested, then like church will have no one to follow, and like members can't preach either, because when
Hmm.
they preach, people are gonna be like, oh, the leader, like how can you like preach it to someone new that like believe in this guy, the
Hmm.
apostle, but he's arrested for like child pornography and everything, and he admitted to all the charges. Like they're not gonna believe that, so like
Hmm.
new people can't come in anymore. And even
Yeah.
within the members, they will see some members who wake up leaving, and they will see that, and they'll also start questioning after all these people getting arrested and all
Hmm.
these people leaving. Then I think like in the long term, like people will leave and wake up slowly. But
Hmm.
I still do believe that there will be some people who are going to be really having a difficult time to accept the reality, because like I said, to them it's going to be really hard to accept that their entire life has been a lie.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So we're can you see the website on your end? I'm sharing
Yeah,
my
I see
screen
the
right now.
website.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this is literally the LLDM .org, and it's in English or Spanish either way. But the thing is like, someone can go on the Internet Wayback Machine and enter the same address and go to 2015, go to 2016, prior to the arrest, and actually when like a lot of the crimes were happening. You can go here and look for Nason way back then and see how prominent he is all over the place. And then also, of course, like within the temples, you can see just how much his logo was slapped everywhere. It's just really just cringy, corny, like gilded, culty stuff. That it's just ridiculous. So yeah, basically, I did the digging for everyone. If you control F for apostle, on the first page, no apostle, Nason, nowhere. You have to go here. Basically, you have to go to our organization. I think it's here.
They
There it is.
used to have Nason and Apostle literally everywhere, and they just got rid of everything
Yeah,
and just
and
make it
again,
so
this is
small.
all just PR. It's wait, no, actually, this is our organization. I was just here. Okay, but you have to go to church civic principle. I don't know, where was it that we had to go to find him, to find like an actual picture of him. Um, which again, like the doctrine, just the force of gravity within the doctrine is the apostle. Like the whatever attempts that the church is going to have in the future of like reforming itself or something like that, where you guys have still like dug yourself into this through your dumb like ideas. You've just dug yourself into this hole of like having a person be the medium between God, Jesus in the heavens, and everyone else on earth. And you guys know that you can, that you guys have definitely changed in the past, and people don't recognize it, or they do recognize it and they don't question it completely. but it's just like, okay, fine. Well, in the future, if you guys do want to change, what were you gonna?
Wait, can you go up for a second?
Yes.
Go up. So at the end it says like we believe faith to be the voluntary and that no one should suffer discrimination because of their beliefs. They say this, but if you think about it, they always talk bad about Catholics and everything. They discriminate other religions and they say that, oh, no one should suffer from discrimination because of their beliefs, but this is what they do.
So I think it's totally normal for La Luz del Mundo to want to criticize other religions, like, do that, fine. But the thing is, like, guys, when you guys criticize the other religions for like 2 hours every Sunday, what's you don't really know what you know if you're just going to have someone like lecture you about it. Well, why don't you invite the priest from like 3 blocks down to come over and have a conversation with you all? Why not have a sort of like arena for your faith? A place where your faith can actually confront the faiths of others, so that you can, the goal is for you to know that your faith is really the one that you should be following. But still, they don't like tap into, they just don't see how like contradictory they can be. So I know some of these folks actually, and again, like, where's the apostle? I'm still looking for him. I thought I knew where he was. Let's go to religious principles.
Yeah, and in the past, apostle, I'm pretty sure he was on the homepage, like the front page.
Here we go. So we believe in the apostles of Jesus Christ, ordained to preach the will, blah, blah, blah. Okay, existence of one and universal God. Okay, that doesn't make y'all special. Like, just what? Like, monotheism has been a thing for thousands of years, and it's basically like a staple within so many religions in this earth. So, like, I don't know why they have this. It's just puff. Death to Jesus Christ. Okay, fine. Not everyone believes that, but a good chunk of humanity still believes that. So it's just puff. This is the main thing within you guys. And where's his name? I don't know where his name is. Okay, maybe if it's in the Spanish one, we can look for it. But basically, like, the church is just completely burying the fact that Nason is part of the. Is at the center of it all.
Can you Google the apostles' name in Google?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, this is how I got to the website. When you look up La Luz del Mundo, you don't get their website as a top result, at least on my end. You don't get it as a top result because there's just so many other things that are just clouding, the networks of information. So like that's one of the purposes behind my channel, is because we want like this counter narrative to be out there and not just this nice presentable stuff that they have here for themselves. Look, here he is. Okay, actually, so the Spanish version is different from the English version. And here in Orden Ministerial, which I went to, and the other one, yeah, here he is. So Apostol is the Guía Espiritual. It's just probably the only picture of him on this whole website. It's ridiculous. It's just completely, like, it's just nuts. They've this is different. But the point of being on the website right now is to show that the organization has had this whole like PR stunt recently within the past year, and probably more, but for sure within the past year, to rid of itself of Nason, to distance itself from him. He's at the center of the whole thing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter what I tell you, but they're making these sort of efforts to the public and to the prosecutors and to whoever else to make it seem like they are not so attached to the man. Do you want me to go anywhere else with this before I like close it?
Oh, I was just saying that, like, I was just saying that if you like Google Nelson Garcia, like a lot of the, like, himself in a yellow clothing with the court case, like it that comes out. So like that kind of shows that, like, and then the first search is like September trial date for the sex abuse case. So like, how can people believe in this faith, like, when you preach this religion? Like, it just, like, as long as you're not have been in the church for a long time, to be
so I'm in incognito right now so that my actual Google doesn't interfere with this. But yeah, when you look up La Luz del Mundo, okay, you get their Wikipedia.
Yeah,
fine,
and
congrats.
Judges set date.
And then judges set date. You get locations, and then you just get all this stuff on YouTube that
Yeah, there you go. September trial for sex abuse case. So like, you can't really believe it as an outsider. Like, it's just all
and good, like we have to like clog the webs of information right now to make people know that, hey, the moment you Google this dude, you're gonna find a bunch of stuff, and again, it's gonna be different from like another organization where that is probably have yet to have their scandal. But hey, when a scandal happens, like all this crap is going to happen. Police posted a video of suspect breaking into the Luxembourg Street and Austin Street on Wednesday. In this video, your Central Valley. This might be Las Vegas. Could this be the Las Vegas thing? I don't know. But,
and also like when you search like his name
Mhm.
itself, like Nelson Garcia, like it's also
Oh,
all
yeah.
bad stuff. So
yeah, totally. It's just the growing importance. I don't know what this is. This is some like trash
well, you have to go to all
website. Yeah. Let's see. Recent. No, let's go to
like all.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just on news.
Then you
But
see
yeah, when
his
you go,
profile. Yeah, there. That's what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah.
Like you see
This
that.
church is so big and whatever, but like he probably doesn't even have his own like Wikipedia page. Oh, he does. There you go. Congrats. But it's still like it's just tainted with just images of him like this. It's incredible. Like this is like really uncanny to see to some extent because it's just a complete like about face that the organization is having to deal with right now. Go on.
And like one of the things that they say that is like there are 5 million members who believes that he's innocent. And I know that you have a video covering like why they don't have 5 million members,
They
but
just
like
don't. Mhm.
but like if like I just don't know how members take this because like in 1997 they said 5 million members in 29 countries. In 2015, 5 million members in 43 countries. 2021, 5 million members in 60 countries. So like it's always 5 million members, but like there's like more people in countries. And like even when you go to their like social media, like even the YouTube page, they say that they have 5 million members, but during the Holy Supper, like you have to be there, right? The views and the number of people who were watching the Holy Supper was so low. The views were so low. Even the subscribers, they say 5 million, but they don't even have a lot of subscribers. So like I just don't know why members think that they have 5 million, but like you can really see the views of the church.
It's just a meme, you know, and that's why I love like talking about that, because it's like, you know, that's not even touching doctrine, that's not touching, you know, the Bible or anything. It's just like you guys cannot count. You guys cannot count, and when you report and when you want to report that you're counting, it turns out that you're not counting. There's just all these different litmus tests to have to put against the 5 million member claim. And then for sure, they just don't have 5 million members. So like, yeah, I know for sure in the mid 2000s, somewhere in the 2000s, I heard from my own family, and they got it from somewhere, that the church had 5 million members. And then of course, when Nason's like arrested, the church just most definitely, you know, the figureheads, the leaders are repeating this claim over and over again. They just don't have 5 million members. And even then in the wake of the arrest, there were efforts to have more baptisms and efforts to push like more people to get into the organization, just to sort of up their numbers and make it seem like they were actually growing, and we're not being like diluted right now. And then but yeah, of course, just my ultimate like response to it is just guys, I have so many responses to this, but actually the thing is just like, guys, where on your website is just the dumb boring Excel spreadsheet that you can show me that accounts for people? You know, I don't want all their names, I don't need that, but just like show me just all the different locations of the church, maybe just, you know, even just the states, you know, speak regionally. Just show me just how many people are present in all these places, and show me that it's 5 million, please. Like, please show me that it's 5 million. And they don't have that. They've never had that. Absolutely, it's never going to happen. They don't have this. And then when it comes to like two more points, when it comes to like when it comes to the Mexican census, INEGI, INEGI, they came out with a report earlier this year in like January or February, and they reported that La Luz del Mundo barely has more than 200,000 members in Mexico. And then of course Mexico is like the headquarters, and it's just like, okay, well, how can you claim you have 5 million when so much of this organization is Mexican, coming from Mexico, related to Mexico, or something like that? And then in Mexico, you guys barely don't even reach 1 million, you know? And then it's also like, and then even of those people, of less than 200,000 people, a quarter of those were like people, there's like teenagers and like teenagers and younger. So they're not even adults. And so they like, can they actually be true believers? No, they're just there because of the because of the marriages you guys have, and people just just born into this thing, and they're probably the next generation that you guys are so adamantly trying to like indoctrinate to perpetuate your own organization.
This
And
is
one last thing, you there's this emphasis on the figure of how many countries they're present in, and like, hey, I don't doubt it. Like, I don't doubt you guys are present in 50 countries, 60 countries, or something like that. Fine, sure, yeah, I'll concede that. But the thing is that like you guys are putting so much emphasis on that number because it's so easy to just send someone somewhere. It's so easy to just send some people to Equatorial Guinea and then up that number just one more, and then send someone to the Philippines, maybe 2 people or something like that, and then up that number one more. And it's just like, that's just a very technical number that you guys can mess around with right now. Within the next 5 years, you all can just about literally go into every single country out there. Probably some countries aren't going to let you in or something like that, but like still, like you guys with the appropriate amount of money can easily inflate that number yourselves. But the thing you can't inflate is how many people are actually in the organization. And within the organization, it is most definitely not more than 1 million people. It is just, it's just embarrassing that like these sort of lies just perpetuate and just stay out there, and they just become these sort of memes and take a life of their own. And some people within the media, just kind of repeat them and don't question it. But the thing is just like, you have to question it because it comes from the organization. And then for people that are still believers, it's just like, hey, let's not talk about Nason. Let's not talk about anything else. Let's just talk about the numbers. This organization, when it comes to the numbers, is lying to you. And well, like, if they can lie to you about this, what else could they be lying to you about? And of course, it's just like, it's literally everything else. But yeah, what were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say that like a lot of cults encourage to, marry within the church only because like of what you said, like having the children and they're gonna be their new members. So like even without like having the new members, you pretty much grow without like having to like get new people, but like you grow from like your own children and stuff like that. And even outsiders people, like me, I'm not going to do that, but I know that some people pretend to convert to be with the partner that they want to be. Like I saw some posts like that on the Reddit.
Yeah,
so like
I
that's how they
definitely know
grow.
people that did that,
Mhm.
and now
Yeah,
they're stuck in it. They just got in to just because they just wanted to be with a partner. And it's just like now they're really dug into the cult. But yeah, what else were you saying?
no, I was just saying that like that's how church grows, and that's why they say that you're not supposed to marry someone from outside, or
Mm-hmm.
if you love someone from outside, like they try to like convert you into the cult and
Mm-hmm.
all that. So that's just one of the basic cult strategy, and LLDM does that clearly.
Yeah, so much of the church, so many of the people within the church are there because their parents were there, and there's just it's not coercive for everyone, but there's just so many of the marriages and the arrangements of them are very coercive in nature. And then of course, like when teenagers get caught like sexting or something, and they're 18, let's say, like they get caught sexting or something, and that is seen as a violation of God's law. And then people are like highly, it's okay if you don't want to marry each other. You're not going to be forced to be married, but hey, if you really want your salvation to be right, and you want to be right in the eyes of God, and you want to make it up to him, and you want to make him less mad and whatever, you guys have to get married. You guys have to get married. You guys have to do it because there's just all these mechanisms that they use, and I could talk about that more, but basically, without going on a rant, there's just all these mechanisms in place to keep people locked into the organization and to have natural growth of like members having more children, which then become members. But then of course, it's like that's what you guys complain about with the other churches, um, it's really frustrating. It's a lot, dude. But yeah, I thank you a lot for like bringing up the website and actually giving me a chance to like show it because that website absolutely changes. Again, people like go to the internet wayback machine and type in that URL LLDM.org, and notice how previous presentations of the church have changed on that website compared to like what I just showed now.
Definitely, yeah.
Another thing we can mention to bolster that point is how in spring 2020, so like March, February, around there, And I'm sure you've probably heard of this. I know I mentioned it to you the other day, but some people don't exactly know this. But like people should recognize that the website has changed. Fine, I'm not too sure when exactly the website changed, but back in that spring of 2020, so many churches across the United States and like pretty much across the world that used to have the NJG logo like slapped everywhere on like every square foot of the organization, every square foot of the temple, I mean, or had like quotes from Nasons, like mi tiempo ha llegado, like all that stuff, that was just so nascent focused and was put there in the first place to get the meme into people's heads, in this church of God. They just shove all this in there to just, really drive home the point that Nason's there, Nason's present, Nason's at the center of this all, Nason's the new savior, etc. Back in that spring, they were taking down a lot of people within the church, within their own church location, started to report on the subreddit that many of the interiors of the church were being redecorated, and there was less of an emphasis on Nason, and there was more of like sort of vanilla run-of-the-mill quotes about Jesus, so like Santidad a Jesucristo, something like that, just taking a lot of Nason out of it. And people can like totally look this up. These like before and there's so many before and after pictures of how a church used to look, and then how a lot of the NJG stuff gets taken out and like other decorations are put up in place. And again, it was just like an effort to make it seem less culty. It was an effort to like to hide the man more. But again, like at the end of the day, when it comes to the doctrine, it all pivots on him, and hence like why we're in the situation and talking so much, because like he himself did some, very likely did these crimes and then squandered the trust of so many people. But then a lot of people just can't process it, and because he's at the center of everything and center at the identity, their center of their salvation, etc. Because he did that, because there's this claim that he did that, they just can't crawl out of it. They can't revamp it. And they can't like, crawl out of that deep hole they've dug themselves in. Yeah. I think it's great to like talk about this. I totally wanted to talk about this before on the channel.
And it's also hard because like you're surrounded with people with the same beliefs, like for example, like in a family or in a church. So even though like I try to reason someone out, like did they go back to the church and they ask their siblings or family or the church members, and then they find answers from there. So it's like the cycle. Like they have question, I finally make them doubt, and then they just find answers within the church members, and they're like, oh, okay. So it's really hard to like reason out of them if they're there with like other people.
Yeah, it's hard. Again, the organization uses its members against themselves to lock each other in, and like that's one of the tragic things about people that are mentally out, but that still have to physically go, because they physically go, they're not going to voice their opinions. They keep that all in their. They're not going to voice their doubts or anything. They keep that all in their head, but by nature of them being present within the church, they're present there, they dressed up, they're singing and stuff, and they're gonna obey, and they're probably gonna walk, they're probably gonna walk to give their little to give their money at the end of the service. But it sucks because people have to go show up physically, and by showing, even by just showing up physically, you demonstrate to other people that like this is our organization is still. We still have attendance. People are still coming. Oh, look, that guy over there. He hasn't ran away and like left the church and whatever. Of course, in his mind, he probably wants to, but when they look at him, they sort of look at him and see him as just another face within the sea of other faces of people who haven't left, and therefore it's like, oh well, I shouldn't leave either. It's like it's really tragic.
They have attendance, right? Like I know that like if member doesn't come, then like, or like they calling the house and check if they're gonna come or not. Like they check the
Yeah.
attendance. So
Yeah,
that's also
definitely.
like another pressure that like you have to come, and if someone doesn't come, they start to question things. And like if you're found out that like you're speaking against the church of speaking the truth, then like you also get a lot of hate. And what's really sad to me is that all these victims are true, right? Like I spoke to some victims and it's all true, they went through it, but the members who are innocent people, who are nice people, they pretty much attack these victims. So imagine like you went through something and these people are saying like, oh, you're a liar, and like this didn't happen, and you're basically saying that the person who did bad stuff to you are like innocent and honorable. Like
Hmm.
it's hurting the victims even more, and they're doing
Hmm.
this without knowing it. So that's very sad to me.
Yeah, there's again, like I want to bring up the Inocente Monument. Are you familiar with this? This is just like some sort of set of letters that was put out in the Hermosa Provincia on the Calzada, which is the main road leading up to the beautiful province. And they put those letters out there, and then now the letters, the last I knew of them, they're in front of Aaron's burial spot. So it's basically just right outside the church of the big white wedding cake church. The thing is that like just that came out like immediately after his arrest, and it was just placed there, and people got to walk around it and drive around it and just see it all the time, and like and like it's just very gross because you guys are complaining so much about the criminal justice system and like and how everything's corrupt and whatever, and fine, you want to put out this narrative that he's innocent and honorable and stuff, but like you guys are so very clearly not respecting the process. And that when that shows up and that is just kind of like accepted by the community and just allowed to be there, that's really like a giant like middle finger to anyone else who may want to step forward, like that. Like that does not help the situation. Mind you, you guys are trying to not proceed forward with the situation, that proceed forward with the trial, and that's why things like this show up, because things like this show up, and that there for sure is a message behind it. Some people read it and think like, yep, he's innocent, he's honorable, he never did anything to me, everything's a lie, he's gonna come out soon, and we're all gonna have a big party here, and he's gonna, and just all that stuff. But other people, certain other people see it who are probably like survivors of his crimes and are get a different feel from that message. They see the message and they see like, oh, I have to shut up, I have to squander down, because if I speak up, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Okay.
Yeah, but can I ask you about like predictions for like the for after the conviction? So I'm fairly confident, and I think you are too, and a lot of people are, that a conviction is going to happen. There's just too much evidence to surmount. And if Nixon is going to get out in any way, it's going to be through some sort of technicality, some sort of bullshit, way. He's going to get out. He's not going to have a full trial, and then the jury's going to be like, nope, he's completely innocent. It's over. The I have my own predictions for what can happen after the conviction, in a number of different ways, and other people have their own predictions. But given that but given that you're someone who hasn't been in the organization for so long and who's only really like new to this, I don't know, how does it look like from you, given that you're only like so new to this? What do you like? What would you have about like the future?
Like I talked about this earlier, but like we all know that he's gonna be proven guilty for sure. It's just a matter of time. And when it comes to this, like when I talk to my girl, she says like, oh, like you don't know the apostle, you don't know you don't know Nason, so you can't say anything bad about him. But like what I think on my end is like the North Korea, the leader, Kim Jong-un, or the Hitler, like we know that they are bad people even though we don't know him because of all these evidences. And at that time, like North Korea, like even now they think that their leader is really amazing guy, and they really cry when they see the leader. Like if you shake their hand, like you don't wash that hand because like that's like the honor that you have. Like so like stuff like that is really same with LLDM. Like if you see the apostle, like people cry and all that, and they think that the apostle is the greatest guy on earth and all that. Like even Hitler too, like the Nazis thought that he was the really good guy, good leader, but like in reality it's not. And LLDM members, they give all these ideas that like he's your spiritual father. So like I say something about him, like she takes it as like, oh, you're talking bad about my father. Like it's really hard to break that because they have that mentality, but like they have to see that like there are victims out there, and just because nothing happened to you, like you said, doesn't mean he's a good person. Like some people can be nice. Like you know the people who like calls for like fraud, you know, like from like India, they say like, oh, your
Yeah,
bank
scammers.
account, blah blah blah. They don't say like, hello, I'm a scammer, I'm trying to get your money. They try to pretend to be someone else and then they scam your money like that. It's really the same thing. This the Nason try to put out the image that he's honorable, he's holy, you
Hmm.
know, he's very nice, but like you have to see what's behind there. You can't just be like, okay, this person seems nice. I've seen them on the screen or I've met him in person for a couple hours and I know him. You can't say that you know him. And I
No.
talked to all these people who were in Nason's house, who worked, you know, with Nason, and they tell me that, oh, like he is this and that. And I believe that more than what you tell me, because like obviously they're gonna know even more about like who he really is. And even
Yeah.
besides that, like I rather know both sides and come to my conclusion like that. Like I good and bad, you know,
Hmm.
like you have to see both sides. And we do that. But LLDM members, they don't do that. They only look at one side and they don't look at the other. They don't even try to know, they don't bother to know about it. So when things the cases go on, like it's gonna be proven guilty, and probably the church will be like, the it's everything is corrupt, so that's why he's arrested. This is persecution. They're gonna say this. They always find a way to like say nice thing to cover it up and to control people. But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, like I said, you can't hide the evidences. They're gonna be wanting to know why he was arrested. But once again, it's all comes down to breaking your own reality. Like like basically you're seeing that your entire life, your entire belief has been a lie. And I know that a lot of people put in so much money, so much time. You know, they go to like choir, they go to free labor, they go as a missionary, serve for like years, and you're basically saying that that was all a lie. And how
Hmm.
can you accept that? And
That's hard.
people don't wanna be like, you know, they've been lied to or they're dumb. Like they like one of the psychology thing that I learned about the cult stuff is that the cult members, they even even though that, you know, like it's there are evidences, they don't want to think critically because they don't want to accept that they've been lied to the whole time. So like
Hmm.
that's still another thing that would be difficult for the members. But like I said, over a long period of time, as the time passes, members will leave eventually one by one, and then other members will see that. And you can't really preach anymore, because if you go out to preach, they're not going to believe you, so that like church is
Hmm.
not going to grow. And you can't really open up to someone that I'm from light of the world, because they're going to be like, oh, you're from that cult, you know.
Hmm.
So like eventually they will have to go through all these things. And I believe that they wake up soon, but like even after they wake up, like they will go through like, is this really true? And like they go through all these backflashes, so it's going to be really tough on them. So we have to, you know, be prepared. And I believe that it's going to be good for them to have some their family members or friends to like guide them throughout their waking up process.
Hmm.
So like after that strike comes, that Nason is guilty and all that, and there's going to be a lot of evidences coming out,
Hmm.
we just have to, you know, be there for them to accept these reality one by one, because it's going to be so much for them to handle. But
Hmm.
like church will go down for sure, and it won't be able to grow. So
Yeah,
that's my prediction.
I wonder. That there's this early on there. I had this thought that like yeah, for sure the church is going to completely dissolve if this thing goes through, you know, follows through completely. But then I also later on would have thoughts of just like no, there are some people within Mexico, within other parts of the world that are just so like very successfully isolated that they're not going to be able to break out of it, or they're not going to they're never going to be really presented with a path for how to break out of it. I'm of the mind that like you know it's possible to like dismantle this thing, and again like we just have to put all the content out there. We just have to completely like plague the Google searches right now. You know, just like the YouTube searches. Just like put out all this counter all this the sort of counter narratives against what they're saying. And if we can just like get so much media attention on this, if we can like have a documentary like come out on us, if we can have more TV reporters being able to report on this stuff and like summarize it really well and present it to the public that doesn't know anything about this, it can really help, and like we can really like just really like kick this organization like really hard in the shin and make it like completely collapse. But I wonder, that's completely dependent upon like if more victims come forward, if more like survivors come forward, what they bring forward. It's also a matter of like whether top-notch bishops and so on also get in trouble, and what happens there. Then it's also a matter of just like if some of those people start to flip on each other, and like how does that work out. But then also there's just that, there's the neighborhood of Hermosa Provincia, and it's just like, well, what will Hermosa Provincia look like after the church, say, collapses? And I don't know what that would look like, but it's interesting because like that big giant white wedding cake church is still there, and just like what do you do with it? And then another thing that you make an important point about how we're people like me and others are the first to, or some set of people who have broken out now, and that we are facing another wave of we're facing other waves of people that are going to come out too. There's this sort of burden on people who have gotten out already to, if they can, to like deprogram themselves, to get their thoughts in order, to prepare their strategies and so on, because the people that are coming down the pipeline of deprogramming, and also they're going to need a lot of our help. And a lot of people now who have left have had to do a lot. Some of them have had to do things on their own, but others recognize the benefits of having a community that has already left, and therefore we have to brace ourselves for like all our responsibilities that are going to come into play after the conviction, because a lot of people are going to want to come out, and a lot of truth and reconciliation is going to have to happen around like a bunch of family dining room tables where families are just going to have to get together and set things in order and talk about what happened and what they're going to do, and how they're going to get out and why they're getting out and so on. And then people are going to reunite with their friends and families, and it's going to be a lot, and we have to prepare ourselves for helping like that, for helping making that easier. And then as for what happens with like the organization when Nason is convicted, there are thoughts of how the concrete walls of LA County men's jail can't contain the authority of the apostle. And so it's just like I think Nason is definitely going to stay apostle somehow, but I wonder what the Joaquin family and what the bishops, with the higher ups have planned. Are they going to come out with another apostle? Are they going to come up with some sort of like person who is the medium between Nason and in the church, and that person acts as like a sort of proxy apostle? I'm not sure, but even then that's like really weird, because it just adds this other like layer of separation from God and Jesus in the heavens. I wonder how they'll take it. Do you have any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Like the Holy Supper this year, like without Nason, they said that like authority of the like the apostle or something, like basically the Holy Supper, like it used to be the apostle have to do it to forgive everyone's sin and all that based on their doctrine. But this year, since apostle like Nason is arrested right now, like other pastors, or I don't know, like the higher up people did it, the Holy Supper, and that's like very different from how they've been doing so far. But they just, I don't know, like change their doctrine or just come up with different things to lead that. So I think something like that's gonna happen, like the apostles there, but then other people will lead the church. But like I said, I'm pretty sure that it's not just Nason. Like there are also other people. Like I saw when there was an election in Mexico, like people were like trying to get votes of the members, saying that like it's what God wants, and they try to do things like that. So I think that if you investigate more, you can find more flaws of the church, and like how Nason has all these charges and all these evidences even before we start started the case.
Mhm.
But once we actually start and dig into it, there are going to be more evidences that's going to show.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure that like after Nasunod gets arrested, like other members or higher up people, like they'll get arrested too, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
so throughout that, I think that the church will lose the power, and and even if they don't get arrested, like church loses the reputation, you know.
Mhm.
And if you lose the reputation, and if you have this apostle, like the core of the beliefs, arrested, and church trying to change the whole doctrine, like how
Mhm.
can people still buy that and preach that, you know? So
Mhm.
like I said, I think it's just a time, and I believe that there will be some people who are crazy about the beliefs who will still remain, but even so, um, like church is gonna like go down, like eventually, like over a period of time, after 10 or 20, 30 years, like they'll have to
Mhm.
see it, because right now the reason why church is going is because they have all these money coming in from the followers, like all the higher
Mhm.
up people, they get paid. But if the church is getting so small and they're not getting any money out of it, then why would they want to stay, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I think it's gonna go down for sure.
I wonder. I don't know. I really wonder. I take all your points, and I'm really excited. It's more like excitement of just like how what are these people going to attempt to pull off, you know, to explain how they're going to proceed forward. And then of course just like how do you convince everyone of that? It's hard enough convincing everyone that Nason's the new apostle, hence all the decorations and the tours and the changing of like the procedures that happen within the church and whatnot. There were so many attempts to like convince people that Nason's the new dude, and then now that he's in trouble, it's just like how that they're gonna have to repivot in some other way. I was going to talk about how um, yeah, so the past handful of Santa Cenas have been really interesting. So the one from 2019, the one from 2020, and the one from 2021 have all been interesting because Nason has been not present in them. And the first one, I think the most interesting one is the one in 2019, because the person who typically, you know, how did the Holy Suppers go? It's a long stretch of hours of just singing and chanting and singing, crying, and probably some like a little bit of explanation on like what the Holy Supper is and whatever. Like I'm not gonna get into all that, but there's so much to get into. But ultimately, typically it's someone goes up to the podium and this person's a hype person. They start the church and they get it all hyped up and singing some songs, and then eventually Nathan comes outside of his house after like an hour or two, and then he takes over, and then he does the whole thing. Um, in the one in 2019, it was interesting because the person leading it was not Nathan because he's not there, but it was his son, Adoraim, Joaquin. And Adoraim is like my age, 20, in like his mid 20s or something like that, and he's the only male son of Nathan. And so it is for some, and Adoraim doesn't have like isn't known. I never knew of him like this, but I never knew of him as like someone who was preachy, who could do like a dominical, who could do a Sunday school, who could do something like that. Like he had never been seen really at like big prominent transmissions or stuff like that. He was never given sermons like to a big audience. But for some reason, in that Holy Supper, they have him, his only male son, take over, do basically kind of run the whole ceremony. It's not him completely all the time. It's him and like Gilberto Garcia, and maybe there was probably like another minister that probably did a little bit of talking or something like that. But it was just weird to see Adoraim so present up front like that. And then of course he has like a terrible performance, and it just didn't look like he was going to be the next apostle in line. He looks like just someone who's just not very well spoken, and like can stutter and probably doesn't know Spanish too much. Sounds like me, I get it, but the point is that like it was just so bad that it just seemed like a really cheap like tactic for the church to put in front of everyone, to put in front of everyone's face. And I don't know. I wonder where they'll take it. But I appreciate your like optimism in terms of just like what can what can dismantling this organization completely like look like. And I think it's important that you have a long view of it in terms of just like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, where right, the dude can be convicted like next year, and then it's going to be a giant moment of reckoning. But then like at the same time, when it's just like a lot of people coming out, I hope a lot of people start talking a lot of shit about the organization and start to, you know, adopt like lines of argument and lines of thinking that people like you and I have. I hope those things get adopted and get promulgated even more, and therefore, and you know, taint the Google searches of the dude, taint the Google searches of the organization, make it really really hard for people that are in the church and that are, you know, at whatever level to stay within it. You know, be that like financially where they're not getting paid, or maybe like certain ministers in certain church locations have like lost a lot of members and then they're not getting paid as much, or be it that just people, it becomes so taboo to become part of this group and to try to get other people into the group, because you know the moment that person gets to Google the group later at night when they're at home, they're going to see through all of it, and they're going to see like just all this web of like horrific stuff that's happened, and all these people that have like had their own exodus out of the organization. I wonder, like, I can talk about this all day long and I don't know, but I'm so like vastly interested in how the church is going to take things. Yeah. Do you have any like thoughts on that?
No,
Or do you, or is there anything that you also like want to move on to so we can start like to conclude?
no, I'm just
Mhm.
like very excited to, you know, for everyone to see the truth over a period of time. So I'm just being patient with that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's all I could say.
Yeah, it sucks. You only had to wait since like, let's say like April is when you really started to learn about things. But so some of us have just been in it for so long, and it's really grueling. And I can speak on, you know, on behalf of myself, and I think on behalf of like the rest of the community. I think we're really grateful to have someone like you, like, you know, willing to help. You know, you have your own selfish purpose um, for dismantling this organization, but like, but even like apart from that, just everyone has their own selfish like reasons why they do what they do. And you know, I'm really glad that we have you, and I hope we can multiply you and have more Pikachu's to help dismantle this religious group.
I just do it
uh,
like you know how they say like, oh, like people who speak against the church, they're getting paid and all that, but like we're not getting paid. Like for me, I'm doing it for love. Like I'm
mhm,
doing it to because I care of these people who are in the church,
mhm.
and like I know that you're doing it also for, you know, to wake these people up. Like it's like we don't get paid. Like it's just out of love. We're just trying to help
Shoot,
people out.
I mean, I would love a check from the Vatican. Like, that'd be cool. You know, I probably helped them to some extent in getting people out of this organization, but like, but yeah, we're not being paid. Like, it's dumb.
Yeah. And I invest
Uh-huh.
so much time on this too.
Yeah, it's really grueling and it's taxing on like the mind. You know, it's frustrating having to deal with the stuff, but then it's also but then, you know, for some people who are part of the organization, it's also like they still have to deal with their own deprogramming, and they still have like, you know, repercussions and aftershocks of when they did leave. And they you know, it's tough, and like, but I'm all here for it. I feel like this is one of the coolest things that I've ever done, and that a lot of other people have probably ever done and gotten to be a part of. And you know, it's just a matter of like you know, knowing that what we're doing here is like is noble and honorable, and we criticize one another. You know, like we obviously like criticize one another and provide feedback to one another about how do we approach the situation. And yeah, again, like I'm really glad I got to meet you, and to know that you're an asset on our side of this whole um, ordeal. Do you have any like closing topics that you want to touch on, or we can move on to like, you know, a conclusion, a final message to like to the viewers? Yeah, take it from there.
Final message, I guess. Like I said a lot already,
Mhm.
but like
Yeah,
as
and
a
again, we don't have
as
to
an
end. Like, I can go on forever. So, you know, it's up to you. It's your call.
I mean, like if I were to give out like the message, like just to summarize the whole thing, like I'm an outsider, right? So I don't know how it's like to be in a cult, or how to like how the waking process was and all that fully, but I do understand in some extent how difficult it was for everyone and how it is like to be in the members who are still in the cult. So I just think that like whoever going through like same situation as like trying to wake someone up from the cult, like it's really hard. Like I cry a lot too, and emotionally, like mentally, like I've been like suffering a lot, like when it comes to like whenever my girlfriend try to like cut me off, or like whenever you get to this disagreements and arguments. But like at the end of the day, like if you really care for the person and really love the person that you want to wake up like, in the cult, like we just have to stay strong and patient. And like after some period of time, like the truth will come out. Like like the church, they can't hide things forever, and it's already coming out. And
Mhm.
like I can see that like they don't have anything to back it up, because that's why like the lawyers are trying to delay the case and all that. They've been trying multiple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we just have to stay patient and just do what what you're doing, AJ, like just trying to get out the information and like have all these discussions to encourage people and to inform people. So I support that. And I'm like, I don't know, like every day try to like stay up to date with what's going on within the church. And
Mhm.
like I still find new information, and I just gather them in my document
Mhm.
to like share when someone is ready to listen to me. Because right now,
Yeah.
like I try to bring it up. I even tried to bring it up last night, and she's like, I don't want to know about it. Just you just have to pray to God. And I'm like, okay, like I just want both of us to look at both sides, and you're telling me to be like, you have the truth and just believe it, and I can't just do that. So it's very tough. But that just over time, like I strongly believe that like they will wake up. So we just have to wait.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate your optimism, and it's rough. I share all of that, and it's just a matter of just we got to do what we got to do, and we have to the organization, like people have to realize that the organization like demanded so much of your time, so much of your thinking, your labor, your just everything, your own identity. It demands from that. And like people that get out should be, not everyone can handle this, like literally not everyone can handle this. I know people who get out, and they're just, I very so much understand when they tell me that, like, thank you for what you do, but I can't do what you're doing because it is just so taxing on me to have to engage with this. And I feel like with the energy I have left, I have to just focus on myself and whatever, I absolutely understand that. But um and I totally respect it. But yeah, just for people like us who can handle it and do want to do something, it's a matter of like, um, just hammering it and creating an environment where once the moment of reckoning comes, or in whatever shape or form, or however many moments come, it makes the environment much easier for people to get out. And like you were mentioning, you've been, something that's really cool is that you've been compiling a document where you're compiling a lot of like resources and arguments of both like biblical, but then also when it comes to like the the um the organization and how it claims it is set up, and then arguments against like about how the criminal case is being handled. And so yeah, like in the description we'll share your email, whatever form of contact you want to give out to people that they want to reach out to you specifically. And then also and yeah, we can share like and then from there you can share like your documents and your resources and all that. Yeah, this is fascinating. Again, like, thank you for coming on. I feel like this was really cool. I feel like I learned a number of things from your perspective in this situation. And yeah, if you feel like concluding, like again, John, this is fantastic. Thank you for this. And by the way, like I didn't mention this in the beginning, but John, you're using an alias, and you're using an alias because you're not part of the organization, and you're not at risk of being shunned by like your family if you do show your face and stuff. But like the thing is that like your investment within this whole situation requires a carefulness from you to where you have to not be so vocal and radioactive um, online, because it may backfire with your own personal goal within being part of this. um, so yeah, again, like, thank you. Multiply yourself, Pikachu. It's wonderful. Yeah, we can go ahead and say bye if you'd like, or take it from
Yeah.
there.
Like I want to show my face, like I'm fine speaking up with everything, but
Mhm.
just as of now, like if I do, I don't want my girlfriend or her family finding out, and like
Yeah.
that they're gonna shun me for sure. And like even if they don't, like the church members will like tell her family like, oh, you're with the outsider guy who was speaking
Mhm.
against the church. Like, it looks bad, and I just don't want to deal with that at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why I just, you know, but
Mhm.
eventually, throughout the process of waking them up, like, I do want to show my face one day, and just speak the truth to help these people out. And
Mhm.
just, I believe that it's really important for like outsiders to know what, like, that cults exist nowadays too.
Yeah.
And it's not something that happens in movies only. Like, it can happen to anyone who are innocent and who are vulnerable. So
Mhm.
like, it's
Yeah.
important that we know how to recognize the cults and how to handle people who are in the cult to help them wake up.
Yeah, for sure. John, you're freaking awesome. I'm really glad this got to happen. Yeah, again, like, just thank you, and I feel like we can say bye to everyone. Thank you for people that came on the channel. Thank you for people that have watched this on the channel, and thank you for like tuning into these conversations. I'm glad that I can share this with you all. And again, if you have any feedback for me or for the guests that come on, please feel free to share it. Privately, or be it like publicly in the comments. And then, of course, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, etc. Engagement, is very important, and it helps put this stuff like on the it helps the engagement, helps legitimize this content to YouTube's algorithm, and then YouTube's algorithm itself can like start to put this on the feed of other people who are part of the organization. And again, it could be something like this that helps like someone click out of it. And yeah, this is awesome. Again, John, like, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you. And yeah, just like goodbye to everyone. Goodbye to you. I'm gonna pause the recording, and then we'll keep talking after this. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and say bye.
Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Take good care.